Good morning, everybody. This is Father Joshua here. I just finished celebrating Mass this morning. Although apparently in an empty church, we remember that we're always with angels and archangels and the whole company of heaven when we celebrate Mass. In heart, I'm with you. It's a beautiful thing to remember that you can be in union with the Masses being celebrated in your parish, even though you are not physically present. Social distancing does not mean spiritual distancing. That's something we should always remember. And it's been a beautiful experience for me, strangely, sad, but also beautiful, to celebrate Mass in an empty church, because the very emptiness of this church speaks to you and your presence. It certainly has reminded me never to take the people of God for granted. This empty church celebrating Mass with not a single person in the pew has made me desire and love the people God has given me to serve even more. So there is something being taught to we priests, or at least to this one, that I'll never forget. And so know that I'm close to you when I celebrate Mass here, and I hope you keep me and Father Michal and all those priests and deacons and bishops you love close to you in prayer, because I long for that time when we can physically come together. But as I said, social distance does not mean spiritual distance, and I take heart in that. It's funny how when you read Scripture in the light of new experience, the things you see. For me, reading Scripture these past few days, really this past week, I have noticed that Jesus was terrible at social distance. He was not very good at it. Today's Gospel, Jesus heals the man who was ill and blind and disabled for 38 years, it says in John 5, and it doesn't say he touches him, just by the power of his word he's healed. However, in other miracles he certainly touches and gets uncomfortably close. This past Sunday with John chapter 9, the man born blind, the thing I keep remembering is how Jesus grabbed him and spit on the ground and made mud and paste and put it on his eyes, and that was not good social distance. Other stories from Luke's Gospel, for example, the woman goes through the crowd and grabs him. Again and again, Jesus gets what today would be very uncomfortably close. With Mary Magdalene Easter morning, he seems to get it. He says, "Do not touch me." But just a few verses later, he goes to Thomas and he opens up his side and he says, "Touch, the wound." So it's just hit me that Jesus certainly did not practice social distance, right? And it's been fun to meditate and contemplate on that for me, because what does it teach? It teaches, I think, that we Christians are certainly called to practice charity in such a way that we draw near people, right? Now we practice social distance, but as I said, that does not mean spiritual distance. Now, in this time of shelter in place, what is our task? Our task is to pray for the world. Our task is to pray for our neighbor. Our task is to pray for the people we are physically separated from. Our task is, and maybe this is a wonderful opportunity, our task is to pray for those people that we do not like, those people that we've been practicing social distance from for a long time now, right? Our task now is to not have our social distance become spiritual distance. But then, thinking ahead, as this pandemic fades away and as we work to return to normal, what is the Christian task? The Christian task is to imitate Jesus, right? And to be on the front lines of closing the gaps of social distance. And we do that by loving and serving and living that radical life that Jesus did. And so for you and I, as Christian believers, we should be thinking, we should be praying, how can I serve, how can I help, how can I rebuild the friendships which make society, you know? How can I love the other, right? How can I serve? And if we spend this time thinking about that, right? What will happen, I think, is that we will share in some sort of fulfillment of the prophecies that we've been reading in the scriptures about renewal, right? The first reading from Ezekiel chapter 47 this morning of the temple, right? This vision of the temple and the water trickling from the sides of the temple become a mighty river, and that river becomes life-giving. The leaves of the trees on the sides of the river are medicinal, right? This is a vision which John also saw in Revelation. And so maybe that's our task, to spiritually prepare in this time of social distance for the rebuilding of friendships, for the rebuilding of society. And it will require our love and our service. And it just seems maybe providential, right? For years now, we have been isolating ourselves in tribes, ideological, racial, political. Well, here we are, right? The isolation we've been inflicting upon ourselves has now come to an extreme, right? So maybe now in time out, so to speak, we can rethink that, and we can think about what it will be like when we can hug each other again, when we can hold hands again, when we can draw close to each other again, to help renew this beautiful country, this beautiful land, this beautiful you and I, this beautiful community. So have a wonderful day sheltering in place, and know that you're in my prayers, and please keep me in yours. God bless.